November 18th, 2016, Friday of the 33rd week in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the book of Revelation. I, John, heard a voice from heaven speak to me. Then the voice spoke to me and said, "Go, take the scroll that lies open in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land." So I went up to the angel and told him to give me the small scroll. He said to me, "Take and swallow it. It will turn your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will taste as sweet as honey." I took the small scroll from the angel's hand and swallowed it. In my mouth it was like sweet honey, but when I had eaten it, my stomach turned sour. Then someone said to me, "You must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, tongues, and kings." The word of the Lord.
The responsorial psalm. The response is, "How sweet to my taste is your promise. In the way of your decrees I rejoice, as much as in all riches. How sweet to my taste is your promise. Yes, your decrees are my delight, they are my counselors. How sweet to my taste is your promise. The law of your mouth is to me more precious than thousands of gold and silver pieces. How sweet to my taste is your promise. How sweet to my palate are your promises, sweeter than honey to my mouth. How sweet to my taste is your promise. Your decrees are my inheritance forever, the joy of my heart they are. How sweet to my taste is your promise. I gasp with open mouth in my yearning for your commands. How sweet to my taste is your promise.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus entered the temple area and proceeded to drive out those who were selling things, saying to them, "It is written, 'My house shall be a house of prayer,' but you have made it a den of thieves." And every day he was teaching in the temple area. The chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people, meanwhile, were seeking to put him to death. But they could find no way to accomplish their purpose, because all the people were hanging on his words. The Gospel of the Lord.
November 18th, Friday of the 33rd week in Ordinary Time. The first reading is from the book of Revelation, chapter 10, verses 8 to 11. In this passage, we hear how the visionary is told to take the scroll and to read it, and then to eat it. It's a very odd gesture. That's something that comes from the book of the prophet Ezekiel. Ezekiel prophesied during the Babylonian exile, and at one point he took a scroll and read it in the community, but then he ate it. What is the message given to the visionary? It'll turn your stomach sour, even though it tastes sweet on your tongue. Pronouncing the word of God is sweet, but its consequences are often dire. And in fact, the consequences of this scroll, the saving history of God, is that not everybody will be saved. Not because God doesn't want to save them. It's some people turn down that salvation, and therefore they will suffer the consequences of their own choices. The Gospel is from Luke 19, 45 to 48. Jesus enters the temple and drives out the vendors because they've made this temple, a place of prayer, into a den of thieves. Remember, it was necessary to have people selling animals because Jewish people came from a great distance. They couldn't bring animals with them to sacrifice, so they had to buy them when they arrived at the temple. Likewise, you needed money changers because you couldn't offer pagan coins in the temple, because pagan coins had the face of pagan gods on them. That couldn't be brought into the temple. It was a graven image. Therefore, they had to change their coins into Jewish shekels, which could be offered. But it has become a marketplace. The temple is no longer a place of prayer. The chief priests, the scribes, and the leaders of the people are furious because of this. Why? Because Jesus has called them out. They've allowed this to happen, and they're at fault, and they don't want to admit it. Therefore, they become angry, and they place the blame on Jesus. That very often happens when we try to confront someone with what he or she is doing. They place the blame on us, as opposed to being honest and admitting that what they have done is wrong. And may God bless us.